Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30. So first, before we even get started, thank you, Shantae, for the smooth jazz rendition for today at the D4 Castle Point Community Meeting. I definitely need it because I was running from one meeting, so it did kind of settle me. So thank you so much, Shantae. And to all of our guests that are on the panel today, welcome, welcome, welcome. And to the District 4 family, Castle Point neighborhood, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us as we have an in-depth conversation about what's going on in Castle Point. What are we going to do, and have some open discussion. And so thank you again, everyone, for attending today. I don't see all of the participants, so I'm trusting Shantae to be those eyes behind the scene. Throughout today, let's just do some housekeeping before we go into introductions. So first and foremost, Happy New Year to those who have not seen or talked to since the beginning of the year. I know you all are saying, Shalonda, it is February 23rd. Y'all, I had to look at the calendar because I almost lost track. But anyway, it is February 23rd. Why are you saying Happy New Year? I haven't seen everybody. So again, I hope you're having a happy new year, a prosperous new year, and that you and your loved ones are safe. Speaking of safe, I hear we're having some more snow to come, so make sure we're all ready and prepared and bundled and locked in if we need to be. With that being shared, we have a guest of panels today that will be joining us to have a full, thorough conversation about Castle Point and some of the initiatives that we're working in partnership with your community leaders and also with department heads and support throughout St. Louis County, including our wonderful Precinct 1, Captain Cunningham. So with that being shared, everybody sit back. It's a D4 family affair. We're going to have a good, tactful, respectful conversation, and we're going to make sure that we answer as many questions as we possibly can. Again, I don't have all the answers. That's why I have all these smart people joining me today. And if we don't know the answers, we know someone that knows someone that can get us the answer. But what we're not settling for is subpar services. And so we want to have those conversations with everybody to make sure we're clear. With that being shared, Shantae, would you please bring up, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at that slide, the first slide. So for today's agenda, and I'm fighting with this, everybody, because I'm old and my eyesight is bad. So let me bring up a larger version of the presentation on my laptop real quick.
Very welcoming introductions, though.
Yep. So in today's meeting, we're going to be making sure we have these conversations, and we have with us from concerning crime and speeding and some of those measures. We have Captain Cunningham from the 1st Precinct, our partner throughout this relationship as we try to provide better services. Captain Cunningham, would you like to say good evening?
Good evening. And I thought Shantae would have chosen some Prince rather than smooth jazz. I do jazz too, so good evening.
I'll put him in the background for y'all.
No. No. We also have from Traffic Calming Measures, we have Mr. Adam Spector from the Department of Transportation. Good evening, Mr. Adam.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name's Adam Spector, and I'm with the County Department of Transportation. I'm our area engineer, so sort of a liaison to the group and to the residents of North County.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. And then as it pertains to the streetlight district, so we have representation from Ameren here with us today, Mr. Marco. And Mr. Marco, you have one of your technicians or lead for this project with you. Would you all introduce yourselves?
I didn't see Marco, but I see Jay Washington.
Mr. Washington, thank you. Thank you for joining. Would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Good evening. Happy to be here. Want to hear some good stuff, and we want to do the best we can to provide service to the area in question. Especially me being a former resident. I just live at 10305 Earl Drive, so I'm very familiar with the neighborhood, and want to provide the best services that we can to the neighborhood through the partnerships.
Thank you, Mr. Washington, and I appreciate you being here. And listen to that, Castle Point family. We have somebody that's a relative of ours that lived in the community. So I feel like we have the inside track on getting it done. So thank you again, Mr. Washington, for taking care of us. We also have feedback or update from the Castle Point grant. I know Mrs. Shantae Jameson was not available to join us today. However, she did provide us some feedback, so we will go through and walk through that information as well. We also have with us members from the Problem Properties, or Public Works, I should say, that would address some of the illegal dumping. And I think Mr. Marcellus, are you out there, sir?
Sorry, Councilwoman, Marcellus won't be attending, but I'll be standing in. I'm Ralph Walker. I'm with the St. Louis County Code Enforcement Problem Properties Unit Supervisor. Spent a lot of time over in Castle Point, so if anybody has any questions or concerns, I'm willing to make note of them or tell you what we've done or what we plan on doing.
Thank you, Mr. Ralph. I appreciate you joining us this evening. Greatly, greatly appreciate your attendance. And then we also have from the Empowerment House to get an update, Officer Shanette Hall, who is a part of the Ethical Society of Police. Would you greet us, Mrs. Hall, Officer Hall, excuse me.
Of course. So good evening, everybody. Thank you, Councilwoman Webb, for definitely having us here and putting this on for the residents and people who are concerned about Castle Point for sure. I definitely look forward to a really good and productive conversation tonight.
Thank you, Officer Hall, for joining us. And at the end, we'll have some announcements. I got some updates on ARPA, just reiterating from a town hall meeting last week. And then we'll just make sure we bring you up with the latest and greatest of meetings and things of that sort that'll be coming forth in the announcement portion. And then lastly, we'll be having open discussion. So I really already walked through with Shantae and we worked together to time box this. You all know me in time. So I'm guilty for not staying in my time box, but I'm going to work extremely hard because I got 3 more minutes before my time is up with introduction. So let me do a little bit more housekeeping. So in today's meeting, we will have a discussion and we're going to have an open and transparent and respectful discussion. There are services that have been lingering. There are responsibilities from the community members that have not been followed through on. And so we have to address those things, but we can do that respectfully. In addition to that, I want to make sure that every resident that's on the call, if you didn't get a chance to invite a neighbor, go ahead now. You have time. So go ahead and say, come on, join the call, neighbor. Because I don't want any Castle Point resident who wants to be engaged to be overlooked or not included. I do apologize for not being able to put the door flyers out to everybody over the weekend. I take responsibility for that and I will do better next time. So this may have just only been those who have email addresses in our database or will share with another neighbor. So again, I hope you hear my plea to share and contact a neighbor right now and say, hey, jump on the call. They talking what's going to happen in Castle Point. Presenters and panelists that are here with us today. As I speak on behalf of the members of this community, I need you all to understand that we have to do something different. The trust that has been blemished with the community is not unwarranted. There have been plenty of conversations in the past. There have been plenty of promises made in the past that have not followed through. I cannot be accountable for the past. I acknowledge it, but I can only be responsible for this point forward. And so since I've been here for a year, I have actively tried to engage with the community and making sure services are improved. We have plenty of room for improvement, but we will need to be panelists, hearing with an open ear and being able to receive that feedback so we can make sure we get things done. With that being shared, I am 1 minute shy of my 10 minutes, but I will yield that time to Captain Cunningham to talk over crime and speeding reports. Captain Cunningham.
Councilwoman Webb, thank you very much. I would rather be in person as obviously, but tonight would have been bad anyways with the weather. So am I on a 10-minute window? Is that what it is, Shantae?
Yes.
10s, okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me start my clock then. Hang on a second. So what I can tell you, so we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago that pertained to a certain investigation that was going on in Castle Point, and I'll just touch briefly on that because I want to get to some other things. But it was a long-term investigation. It was a narcotics investigation, and everybody knows that where there's a prevalence of narcotics, there's usually a lot of guns in play as well. So we took the time. This investigation started with residents from Castle Point. Okay, this was it came from meetings, you know, before the pandemic hit, of like, hey, this is going on. Can you take a look at it? And so I did, and it turned out to where it was a very successful federal investigation. And I'm more than sure that particular area, that block, is much quieter now. There's a reason what, you know, that's what our goal was. So we met a couple weeks ago, and someone from the U.S. Attorney's Office wanted to talk about that and the impact on the community. And there's some things that he mentioned that day that I didn't really think about, but when stuff like that happens, when these roundups happen, it impacts, you know, the children. We were at the school, at Lewis and Clark School, and that really hit home on my end, because I mean, I have children, but you know, sometimes in law enforcement we don't think about that. And so, you know, I just hope that, you know, that was our last investigation in there for a while, because it does affect a lot of residents and families. As far as crime right now in Castle Point, and I would be curious to talk in our open discussion about what the residents of Castle Point are seeing, and most of you know me, hearing with ShotSpotter, with gunshots in the area. Because on my end, and this is actually for the entire North County precinct, our calls for service are way down. ShotSpotter, specifically Castle Point, way down. I think there's reasons why that's happening. We have an initiative with the department where they focus on violent crime, and I don't have any other excuse or any other reasoning why violent crime has gone down, other than the officers that are working together, focusing on that in North County, the reason why it's gone down. And I'll tell you, you also know that I like to throw some numbers around. The officers in the first precinct in 2021 seized 381 guns. You combine that with this initiative, this violent crime initiative, just under 700 guns were seized in the first precinct, 695 guns. That is a lot of firearms that are taken off the street. You know, the homicides in North County precinct, we went from October 26th of 21 to the middle of January. We did have 3 homicides within about a 24-hour period. None were in Castle Point, and we have not had one since. Okay, this is a trend that I have not seen since I've been up here in 2 years, and it's not because of me. Trust me, it's the officers doing a great job, and it's, you know, pulling resources in from the department that maybe we didn't do before. So but I'm very curious to hear from the residents. That's kind of what I wish, you know, I'm standing in front of you. You know, what are you seeing? I know the speeding is an issue. That is something that, if like today, I know there was some marked cars that were sitting on some of the stop signs. I had one of my sergeants down there. He said he only saw 2 cars in 10 minutes. Both of them came to a complete stop. We are getting more into, you know, utilizing radar, and Castle Point is an area where we're going to be, just to make sure that there's a presence in there, because the worst case scenario for everybody is a child or somebody getting struck by a car. I do know that it's a problem, and we are going to try to address that. There are other things that I probably don't have an opportunity to get into at this time, as far as resources, and I will talk to the councilwoman at some point after this, to assist with some of the issues in Castle Point, whether it's some of the abandoned homes, bringing some job fairs, that kind of stuff into the community as well. There is no, I don't want to use this an excuse of COVID anymore. Hopefully we're kind of, getting out of that area. And once this winter season breaks, the police department, we want to make sure that we are in Castle Point as much as possible, providing whatever assistance we can. Other crimes of concern in Castle Point, I'm kind of blown away that it's as quiet as it has been for several weeks. It's not just because of the winter weather, because for the time that I've been up here, the weather has not slowed everything down to the point that it is right now. So, and from my end, this is great news, not just for Castle Point, but for all of unincorporated North County Precinct. One thing we did do December 26th, we went to 12-hour shifts. So the officers are out there for 12 hours. Okay. It's a long day. They're still busy, but they're not as busy as they were. We'll see what happens when the summer months roll around. But that is about it. How much time do I have left? I got 3 minutes left. Okay. What else can we talk about as far as the crime and the speed? I know some of the issues that were brought up at the one meeting we had the early morning at the school were some of the traffic issues and what can be done. And I think, Adam, hopefully you're going to discuss if there's anything on our end. I think the best thing that we can do is officer presence within that neighborhood and enforcement. Okay, whether it's radar or any other resources we have. The speed trailers, they're not going to slow anybody down. So I think it's going to be a matter of actually enforcement and being inside of the neighborhood. And I believe that is all I have right now. I'm looking more forward to the open discussion or any questions or in the chat. That question right there, Moline Acres is open. All police services are going to be a 24-hour operation. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Captain Cunningham. I do appreciate you going down that feedback. When we give out this actual presentation to all of the members of the community to be posted, as well as this meeting, videoed and posted, we probably get some more input from you on some of those stats so we can include it on this slide. And then I give people a little bit more granular details about how things are turning around. And I am excited, just as you are, Captain Cunningham, about the turn of things. I would like to see that consistent and permanently continue to dwindle down. And as you talked about the roundup earlier in January, when we had the meeting with the U.S. attorney, I think it was the marshal, I can't remember his name, Mr. Jim. We want to make sure we put programming in place that we don't just leave that space void, right? So someone else can creep in there with illegal activity, but we replace it with something positive and beneficial to the community. And this is the beginning of that conversation to start identifying what that may be. And I look forward to working with you more, Captain Cunningham, on developing that. We will have open question, answering questions and answers. Ooh, I can't talk. Questions and answers at the end of this meeting for about 30 minutes. So we'll have a great opportunity to engage directly with the community members from Castle Point. Moving on to the next guest that we have, as Captain Cunningham introduced him almost, it was a great leeway into Mr. Adam Spector from the Department of Transportation as he addresses traffic calming. Give us a traffic calming update. Mr. Adam, are you there?
Okay, I am here. I got an hour and a half on this, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
So pretty much when it comes to the speeding issue, we in transportation talk about the 3 E's. There's education, enforcement, and engineering. And Captain Cunningham has already kind of addressed the enforcement, just that police presence, writing the tickets, that type of thing. Education is sort of just that combination, like when they put out the radar trailer that lets people know, hey, this is how fast you're really driving. And, combined with the speed limit signs that we post out there to tell you this is a speed you should be driving because you're in a residential area. And at this point now, we're kind of left to the 30, the engineering portion, trying to design a safer road and make a road that makes people want to drive an appropriate speed. So we've been working on a traffic calming plan for the Castle Point area. This started last year where we went out and, the first step was to really kind of define the problem. And so we did data collection at about, I think, 17 different locations throughout the neighborhood where we collected data we measured how fast people were actually driving. We counted up crashes on all the streets. And then we kind of compare that data to what we would expect. And so we've identified some areas that, some of the streets that have a high number of crashes as compared to the amount of traffic on those streets. And we found some locations where traffic is moving at an average speed that's far in excess of what the posted speed is. And so now the next step is that we look at what can we do at some of these locations that makes people want to drive at a more appropriate speed. And so traffic calming is sort of the art or science, as it were, of getting into drivers' heads and making them feel that they should be driving at a different speed than they are. And we basically have a bunch of tools in the toolbox. I know the first thing that most people think of is, first of all, we want to put stop signs everywhere because that'll stop people from blowing through intersections. And, if that worked, we wouldn't be here talking about this already because people roll through stop signs or they ignore the stop signs. And those are the people that are probably ignoring the speed limit signs as well. So, that's not really an effective method of traffic calming to just put up stop signs. The next thing that people typically think of is speed bumps. And speed bumps are an older form of traffic calming, I would say. And it's something that's more relegated to parking lots these days. On streets and residential neighborhoods, they're not as good of a solution because, they just create other problems. They cause problems with our ability to plow snow. They cause noise for the residents that live in those houses right by where those speed bumps are located. And they can cause problems for some of the, sometimes with emergency access, things like that. It causes them to have to slow down or to alter their paths in ways that are not always beneficial as well. So speed bumps and those types of methods of slowing people down are not really favored in these types of situations, but we do have a bucket in the toolbox of what we call horizontal deflection, and that's kind of where speed bumps are. We also have a bucket in that toolbox of things that we refer to as horizontal deflection. And in those horizontal deflections, instead of trying to make people drive over bumps and things like that, we try to just make them pay more attention to the road. So we have some tricks in our hat that are just things like narrowing the road to make it seem more dangerous than it may actually be, so you feel a need to drive slower. This would be akin to if you're driving down the highway, you're driving and you feel great driving in the middle of your lane until a truck pulls up next to you and then it's kind of close to you and you feel that it's close, so you drive slower, even though it's in the middle of its lane, you're in the middle of your lane. But it makes you feel as though you have to drive slower. So we have some tricks in our basket here that do things like that. So we refer to those things like neck downs, bulb outs, chicanes. We basically put things in the road that make the road maybe seem a little bit curvy, a little windier or narrow. And those things will make people want to drive slower. And then the third category we have is what I'll refer to as diversionary. And those are things where maybe we create one-way streets. We can do things where we block off access to some streets, or we could put in diverters that make you have to turn at an intersection instead of being able to go straight through an intersection. So those types of things shift volumes around, and that makes you also have to pay a little more attention to the road. And so that sometimes will slow people down as well. Having to make turns slows people down. So we have a bunch of tools in our toolbox, as it were, here. And so, we've been kind of working on some concepts, things that we can put into this neighborhood that we think might be effective at various locations. And so what we're planning right now is we held a public meeting a couple months back and tried to get some feedback from the community to see, just kind of educate a bit about that, about the different tools that we have, and to get some feedback about what sounds acceptable, to make sure that the areas we're focusing on are kind of areas that people are concerned about, that type of thing. And so our next step then is we're going to do a demonstration. So we're looking at sometime in April where we're going to go out into the field, into the neighborhood there, and we're going to set up some temporary traffic calming measures so people can kind of see what they are, see how they operate, see how they change the road and how people drive through them. It's not going to be a permanent installation and it's not throughout, but it's enough to give people an idea of what they are, what kinds of things we can do and how they work. And then we'll have people in the field at various times. We'll probably put those things in for a couple of weeks, and we'll have some of our people out there to answer questions, to talk to people and get some feedback about how they feel about it, and, get an idea of where people think these things might fit into an overall plan. Then in this summer, we're going to have a consultant that's going to come on board, and they're going to do the design work for us. Once we've gotten all this feedback and people have had a chance to kind of think about what they like and don't like and see how they work. And we're going to have a consultant that's going to design the more permanent installation. And then we have already in our budget $1 million dedicated to construction of these improvements in the neighborhood. So, that's something that we're committed to. We've already got the money set aside for it, but that construction will probably happen not this coming spring, but next spring in 23 at the beginning of the construction season. And we'll be able to put in our sort of permanent solutions. And then over the course of the following year, we'll do some follow-up data collection. And that'll give us an idea of, if we've solved a problem, if we've created more problems or moved problems, and then we can go back and we'll be able to tweak what we've done at that point. So, we'll give it a year with everything in place for people to get used to it and see how that works out. So that's kind of where we are with our project at this point and kind of where we're headed. And I'm around for questions, or if you need more explanation, I can go on for a long time about this topic, and I have other pictures and everything. So, but I want to leave time for everybody else.
So thank you, Mr. Adam. I do appreciate you walking through and giving us that heads up. If you missed the fall meeting that we had before the Christmas holidays, we had that available on the YouTube channel. We also have the details from that presentation available online as well. So if you missed it, it's not all lost. If you want to know those details, Mr. Spector and his team did a phenomenal job of giving those details. I know I probably bothered them way, way too much, but I am so grateful for the output of the final product, because it gave us a realistic view of what could be done. And then as you see before you now, members of the Castle Point community and the D4 family, that there is action, there is a plan. And guess what? That's just real, like a few months shy of when I have to run for re-election. And so at least it'll be done before y'all get rid of me. So in either case, I am grateful for this feedback. I will be keeping in contact with Mr. Adam, following up to make sure as we get prepared to do those demonstrations that we do some community engagement and letting them know, right? We don't want to just pop up there. I know that they've already started working on how they would communicate that with the community and actually making sure that everybody is aware as best as possible that when this measure will start for the demonstration. So again, I'm grateful to hear that. I remember when I first started bothering you, Mr. Adam, and your team and department, I was said, I'm walking up and walking on Castle Point, whether I'm dropping ring doorbells or I'm dropping literature, I'm delivering food, or am I giving codes? And I've been almost hit 2 or 3 times. And so if I'm almost hit as big as I am, I can only imagine what little children that have no sidewalks, what they're going through in that community. So I am grateful that you all have compassion and have taken this seriously, and that there's action to be coming forth relatively soon. Moving on at this time, our next guest or speaker is so this is the street lighting district, and Ms. Jackson is I know Ms. Jackson was unable to attend tonight, but it's Mr. Smith, Daryl Smith on the call. Okay, so Ms. Jackson and Mr. Daryl Smith are actually the representation for the street lighting district, and I asked them to send the current status of the activities that's going on in the street lighting district. This project has been going on for multiple years, way before I came along. And my concern is that it is still coming along. And so I won't belabor the details of what Ms. Jackson provided, but we do have Mr. Washington, who's here from Ameren, to give us some feedback from his perspective as actually implementing the street lighting district updates. Mr. Washington.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Good evening, everybody. Once again, my name is Jay. I'm the energy services consultant for this particular district. Like I said, that I used to live in, and it's one of my territories in North County that I serve. One of the biggest dilemmas that we run into with this lighting issue is that how Ameren used to do things in the past. If a customer requested a light pole and paid for it, we just go set that pole and light and not wonder what any consequences or whatever the future implications could come behind it. However, since we've gotten wiser due to lawsuits and things like that, whenever we set a pole and a light, especially if it's not a right-of-way type area, we have to have an easement from the property owner. And that's where we're running into a lot of curveballs, because there's still a lot of homeowners in Castle Point. However, there's a lot of rented and leased property in Castle Point. So the leasee doesn't have the official authority to grant the easement. So that leaves our real estate department going to them and going to county resources. And I believe Shantae sent up a very well request last time. However, our real estate department personnel is still running into a lot of the same things, where they send out requests for easements at some of these premises or these address locations where lighting is desired, and we don't get approval signed back. And that causes like the bottleneck that people are seeing now, or maybe frustrated with the lack of desired locations that may be expressed. However, one solution that we have to this is, or that I have, is if we could have a little bit of leeway as to know what is considered a right of way in Castle Point. If we have a right of way that the unincorporated township, has access to, maybe 2 or 3 feet in front of a property, something like that, and we can set a pole off of one of our leads and then just follow lines like that through that right of way, then we can get around this easement situation. That's the other dilemma in Castle Point. A lot of our leads are in the rear of the homes. So with the poles being in the rear of the homes, we gotta have that easement in order to be able to string from that back pole to the new pole that we set on the front and hang the light. Because say for instance, we put that in at a property that may even be uninhabited right now. Somebody comes and buys the property and decides, well, I want to park my truck here and I don't like that line crossing over. And if we don't have an easement from them, we technically have to vacate. So that's one of the biggest obstacles that we're having right now with putting lights in some of the desired locations. Even one day I was riding with Mr. Darrell through the neighborhood, and we found a spot that had a homeowner that happened to be there. He was moving in, and he was a homeowner. We sent all the paperwork and everything to him. Our real estate department did, and we've yet to get it back. You know, so we don't know where the hangup is or what's going on, but we have to have easements in order to be able to string from the back to the front. If we can have a right-of-way access with a lot of the desired locations, then it will be a lot easier to provide the lighting services to that very deserving community. That being said, I'll leave it open for questions or any other comments, but that's our biggest hang up.
Thank you, Mr. Washington, for
Councilwoman?
giving that. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mr.
Go ahead. I just wanted to jump in real quick and give you some information about what Shantae had sent in an email, but she just wanted to kind of say it, not necessarily note it.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I'm listening. We're listening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The easement situation was what she did kind of talk about, and some of the locations that you see here. She was trying to get around that by using some of these addresses are county properties, and then other addresses were some that have stood vacant for a while. And I don't know, Mr. Washington, that's why I wanted to kind of say it, how that part plays a part in the ability to get that particular light done, because she said the same thing, that easement was an issue, and that she was trying to get locations that were easily accessible.
Yes, ma'am. Well, they're easily accessible, like I said, because nobody's there, is uninhabited right now. But our real estate personnel has found some of those locations, quote unquote, property owner, a bank or whoever. A couple of those. I don't have those addresses in front of me. Our actual software on my work computer won't accept Zoom, so I had to send this information to my personal phone. I wish I had access to it or was side by side with it, and then I could tell you those specific addresses. But there's 2 addresses on here. I don't know them right now. I can follow up with that tomorrow. That bank properties own, and she still sent requests over to them, and I guess bank properties probably don't want to give any type of easement. But I don't know. We haven't heard anything back from them. So basically, a long story short is that Ameren moving forward has to have an easement, because we don't want to put up something and then all of a sudden, that's like I said, they're vacant property. Somebody comes in there, takes over the property, and even though there's a light there that they could truly benefit from, they may not like the line crossing the way that it's crossing, and hey, I don't like this line crossing my property. Without an easement, we technically have to come out there and then remove that line, remove that pole and everything else. So then there's a waste of resources for you guys, waste of resources for us with the truck roll and everything else. And we want to make sure that these fixtures, where they end up going, are permanent and beneficial and efficient to the end result for the benefit of the neighborhood, and then for the benefit of everybody, all the parties and stakeholders involved.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. So I'm going to be very transparent here, and I hope you hear me with a good heart.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the first time in a whole year that I've heard about the issue of the easement or property owners and who owned what. And so it's a little taking me aback a lot, because I wish that this communication would have been taken care of last year. We could put something in place where we can either look at and assess, hey, well, maybe we can't use those properties. Let's see. I know there was a study to say where the lights would be better at, but if we have challenges with easement and getting those permissions, then we may have to do an alternative plan. But because it wasn't communicated until February 23rd, 2022, and the last meeting we had was in September of 2021, that is where my concern is. So that lapse in communication is where it's a concern. And as you know, as a current, a former resident of Castle Point, that if residents don't hear this, all it seems as if is that we're left behind and forgotten once more. even though it could be legitimate reasons, there was no communication. And so I'm going to have to set that communication in your lap, Mr. Washington. However, I'm not just leaving that in your lap. I want to help work through it. As we look at those addresses that we have here, I would like to learn which one have easement challenges and which ones may have an opportunity for county to have some information. Mr. Spector, do you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Is there someone in the Department of Transportation, or should I be going to the Department of Planning to determine where there is county easement that could be used or county width that could be used to help us work that through?
If it's a matter of doing something, putting a street light within St. Louis County's right of way for the street, that's going to go through our department, and there we have a process for that. You know, we typically have not installed lights ourselves in a lot of places. There are a handful of lights throughout the county that we are responsible for, but typically we don't maintain lighting. So, but what we do is we work with Ameren and we allow other groups to install lighting, and you know that would go through kind of our permitting process. So, you know, we have a route to do that if it's something that's going to be within our right of way.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
So what I
That's-
need,
that's
Mr.
why- that's why I
Spector and
mentioned
Mr.
that, ma'am.
Washington. I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry.
But
Go ahead,
that's
Mr.
why I mentioned-
Washington.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over, but that's why I mentioned
This
that.
is-
And I thank Adam for bringing that up. That's why I mentioned the right of way. The
Mhm.
right of way, it's basically the council. I mean, it's the same thing with the right of way. If county decides that they need us to move it or get it out the way, then we'll get it out the way. However, usually, except for in a case like this where they got this planning coming along for streets zoning and slowing down traffic, rarely are they disturbed. So that light can go in, and I know that it's probably going to be good for at least another 20 years. Like I said, with the derelict properties and things like that, we don't have that guarantee, you know. So if we set that pole and light and string that the conductor, like I said, somebody could come in tomorrow and buy it. And I'm sorry that you're just not getting this information. Whenever I took it over, and we had a guy who was new to the company before I took it over, so he may not explain things as thoroughly, and it's not to even throw anybody under the bus, but as soon as I took this property over, took this job over, that was one of the conversations that I had with Shantae, Mr. Darrell. So they were aware. You may not have been aware, and I'm sorry that you weren't. I wish I would have had your contact information. I could have, but yeah, everybody's been aware of the situation, and that's why Shantae was able to relay the information to you. She's very aware of it.
Awesome. So what I would like to do, Mr. Washington and Mr. Adam, is we're going to have to do a sidebar because we're definitely past your time.
Sorry.
Time box. That's okay. This is important. And no one, please don't get offended about this. We're working together to make things better, right? And so I'm okay. You can check me and say, Shalonda, well, you know, read your emails, girl. I sent that information to you. That's okay. As long as we work through it together. So here's my ask, gentlemen. Shantae, Harmon Young, let's set aside meetings so we can work through the information that we have, look at those actual addresses to see which one has right of way for county. And then Mr. Washington, we may even have to entertain other locations. Now, I won't do this in silo. I will not be disrespectful to the lighting district of the community with Mr. Jackson and Mr. Darrell. So we definitely want them at the table if they are available. But we need to make progress, right? It's been 3 years out. If you were still living there, Mr. Washington, you would say, this is not acceptable, right? Well, you know, I was living there. It wouldn't be acceptable.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm on the same page. But that's the whole thing. And that was my whole ask to Mr. Darrell as well. You know, just to make sure that these are areas that we actually can use, because I know he's been biting at the chops a little bit, but I've been trying to be diligent in all of my explanations that it's not just business as usual. I mean, there's a consequence for everything. Like you said, I mean, we set a pole somewhere, somebody comes in, don't like it, and they buy the property, and we don't have an easement, we got to move. So we just all want to work hand in hand and come to a common resolve. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. So we'll do that. We'll partner up. Mr. Adams, well, I do get on his nerves sometimes, but Mr. Adams will work with us and will help you work through it with us to make progress. We can do better. We can
We
do
can.
better. And it may be stretching of us and be beyond the standard process, but we have to meet the situation where we are and then come to a resolve. And so again, I thank you, sir. I know you're joining us after a long work day, you and Mr. Adam and everyone else. So I thank you for joining us. And we're going to work
Anytime.
together to get a solution.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, Shantae, we want to jump forward towards in the presentation, everyone, there is information about the grant, and it's very detailed. I thank Shantae Jamison Board because she's taking the time to just say, where did the grant come from? And then, where does the grant currently stands financially and what more time we have? As you can see, the grant officially ends, the $1 million grant for Castle Point officially ends on March 31st. And so with that, if there were any additional funds still out there, if we have not used those by the March 31st date, we lose those. And so she's also done some delineation of all of the things that those funds have currently gone towards, excuse me. And so I won't belabor this meeting or insult you about reading them one by one, but you will have access to this information. So with that being shared, I would like to add, Shantae, please take a note, a balance of what we need to know what the balance is. I didn't see that in the actual presentation.
The
Were you
money's been
aware of it?
allocated. The entire amount has been allocated. It had to be allocated by March 31st. And that list that you see is what they were allocated for. Some of the funds for some of these items haven't been quite spent yet, but they had to have been allocated. The rest of the money was allocated towards paying the bill for the streetlights. And so what she
The
did was
streetlights that don't exist?
yes. So what they did was the police department ultimately took over because they were having some difficulty, with the street lighting district. So the police department took over the actual placement of the lights. So it's kind of working through the police department in order to not lose the funds. And so they set up a fund within the police department because it's going to pay the bill upwards of a year or whenever the funds are depleted. So the rest of that money has been allocated. Go ahead.
Thank you. Do we have that point of contact from the police department? Because I think they should be
Yes,
involved
she
in the
sent,
next
she
meeting.
sent that today. Yes, I just
Awesome.
didn't put it out.
Awesome. So we'll include them in that one-off meeting that we're going to have sidebar with Mr. Spector and
Yes,
Mr. Washington.
right.
Thank you. Awesome. Let's move to the next topic, everybody. We're a little bit beyond schedule, but I think it was well worth it. At this time, we have Mr. Ralph Walker, who will give us an update as it pertains to illegal dumping in Castle Point. I want you to be able to say, Mr. Ralph, that is no longer there, but go ahead. I do see your hand, sir.
I'm sorry, I had my mic off.
You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Sorry about that. Illegal dumping, specifically in the Castle Point area. The Problem Properties Unit is part of the Code Enforcement Department. We have inspectors that are assigned to us along with an abatement team. We have one inspector that rides tandem with one of the police officers assigned to the Community Outreach Unit. We actively spend time in Castle Point. I myself am there at least 3 times a week, doing cleanups, inspecting, talking to residents that identify cleanups that need to be addressed. Abatement crew, this past month, they have done 22 cleanups in just the Castle Point area alone. Mind you, this abatement team is 2 personnel, and we're actually responsible for the entirety of unincorporated St. Louis County, but we do spend quite a bit of time over in Castle Point. We use community groups such as churches, volunteer groups, people that need to do community service to try to assist with cleanups that are a little larger than our abatement team can handle on their own. When we get those groups and, because of weather right now, so we've been having to cancel quite a bit of them. We actually had one that was scheduled tomorrow, but because we don't know what the weather's going to cause, we're going to go ahead and just move on. Even if it doesn't, it gets kind of muddy and those guys don't work as effective as they would during a dry day. We identify all of the vacant properties. Well, we don't identify them, but we're aware of most of the vacant properties. And I've got an inspector that he's a vacant property monitor. So he's constantly writing those violations up. The nuisance ordinance covers us for the illegal dumping. So we'll write a ticket up for that. They get 7 days. Even though it's a vacant property, we still have to notify the owners and give them a time to rectify that problem themselves. If they don't rectify that problem, we'll go ahead and pursue ways to abate that, whether it be legal means. But most of the time with those type of issues, we can go ahead and assign that to abatement team or groups that we can go ahead and schedule to clean those up. And sometimes if they're larger, they might take a little bit of time. We address everything, just because we don't, you might not see it disappear as quick as you think it could disappear, but it's a never ending battle, especially in Castle Point. We'll clean up one property. I'll clean up one property about 10 times within a 3-month period, because we'll clean it up. People will see that it's clean and they'll dump it. And we keep going in that circle. Shantae purchased some trail cams that we post on certain properties to assist the RIC. I forget what that's acronym for, with the police department. They have cameras where they monitor certain areas. We post those on certain properties where I get a better look of the plate or the people dumping. And with those and the other cameras, hopefully we'll be able to identify people and track them down and get a good prosecution going and make examples out of people that try to come into Castle Point and do that type of that illegal activity. So far, we've got 2 in the past month that we're investigating. Still haven't got any what the end result is back on that. The police officer, he does a pretty good job with tracking these people down. He actually goes above and beyond. I've seen where he's actually went to the person's house and guy's on the move and he can't, it's just a matter of time when we catch up to him, and we'll go ahead and get him in the system, and hopefully the word will get out to the point where, these people that come in and dump in Castle Point, they realize they need to do something else or keep on moving up, somewhere else where they don't bring it in Castle Point. That's pretty much my job. I'm the janitor of it. I see a problem and you send it to me and I'll fix it. I don't have a whole lot of technical explanation for what we do. I take any complaint and I address every one of them. I address them within that day, and I try to get back and get an answer back or a resolution back within the 24 hours, or so people know what's going on, so you're not just sitting around and hoping that this is not the next person that's not doing his job. But other than that, I can answer questions, or feel free to contact me and let me know about something. But like we say, we're in Castle Point, but I can tell you about every Snicker wrapper that's on the ground right now. That's how often we're over there.
Yes, sir, Mr. Walker. And I know for a fact, you all do a phenomenal job. When myself, or most likely Shantae, calls directly and say, hey, we had this issue, you all respond to it immediately. And I know, and I'm thankful for you, because I know that we're not the only area you serve. You have to serve South County as well, unincorporated area. And the amount of staff that you have is very limited. So I don't take it lightly how responsive you are to the issue. What we have to address, though, D4 family in Castle Point, we have to address the systematic problem. And there are 2 issues that we need to make sure we talk about or address in illegal dumping. One of those is making sure that everybody has trash service in Castle Point. I do believe, yes, there are some people coming outside of the neighborhood, but there are some of us that are in our community that are responsible. Now, I've been asked to have, I've requested a meeting with the director from HUD, Ms. Shannon Cohen, to talk to her about a program that we can put together, that if we are on some type of program with the housing authority, that maybe the trash services is automatically paid directly from the authority, and it doesn't need to go to the residents at the time. And so instead of giving a stipend to the residents, it's paid directly through some systematic trash service. So that is something I'm hoping I can share with her, and she would have an open ear and an open heart to receive that. That meeting is scheduled with myself and her on March 1st. The other issue that we have in Castle Point and beyond the trash services and illegal dumping, more specific, as Mr. Ralph spoke of, getting those readers where we can actually see who's doing a violation. But it's just not seeing the person in the, catching the person in the act or recording the person in the act. It's a system around here, as Mr. Ralph alluded to or shared, that they have to get a citation. They then have to go through the legal system. Then we have to bring them to municipal court. And so over the last 6 months, I've been working with all of the departments in conjunction and in collaboration with Councilman Tracus to say, what do we need to do with all of these departments that impact problem property units to make them more streamlined, more effective, and ensure that they have the resources to prosecute those that are in violation, or make a decision if we need to send that to a civil suit. So we've been talking over the months. Shantae, I bothered her earlier this morning saying, okay, we need to go ahead and get prepared for our overall pitch. So those are two, between how we pay for trash pickup for the residents of Castle Point and how we deal with those systematic illegal dumpers and how we make sure that they are fined appropriately and that there is accountability to them. Those two robust solutions, I think, will give us long-term solutions to the illegal dumping. Because Mr. Ralph, as he said, comes out 10, 20 times in a month or 2 months in Castle Point, and then it's just repetitive. So in addition to us working in those two programs, there is also, as a part of this overarching solution to problem property units, is possibly giving residents a way to earn ownership of adjacent properties that they maintain, some type of incentive program. Mr. Marcellus brought it up when we first started this initiative a few 4 or 5 months ago, and then we want to pursue that even further. And so hopefully when we put this comprehensive plan together, there will be opportunities for that as well. The details of such an incentive plan we do not have yet, but that is something we're working. So overall, looking at each leg of this stool, if we're successful with the incentive program for maintaining adjacent properties, for ownership, if we work with all the departments to work together for a streamlining of how we deal with illegal dumping, and we also have a way to ensure that all residents in Castle Point has garbage services and it's taken care of, I do believe those 3 punches will give us a knockout in a solution to see a real difference in Castle Point. So I thank you, Mr. Ralph, for being so responsive and also supporting this meeting tonight. I do have an ask of you, sir. So as it pertains to the stats, and I know you say you the man, you the hands on ground, the man on ground and on site, hands on deck. I do need some data from you, sir. So if you can provide for us to add to this presentation the amount of cleanups that you've had from this year, like maybe you want to look at January and February and then go maybe 1 month from last year, just so the residents can see whether it's a good progression or bad progression, meaning it was an increase or a decrease, how many times you've been into the neighborhood to address certain issues. I think that will be value added. In addition to that metric, I would also like to see all of the properties that you all have identified that are derelict, not the listing of the properties, just the number of those properties, sir. So we can get our mind wrapped around how massive that issue is with the derelict homes and actually being able to do something about that. Yes, that is something we have also been discussing on how do we address demolishing some of those properties. But it's just not that easy, everyone that hears my voice. It's just not, oh, that's a derelict property, we need to demolish it. There's the whole title situation. Who has the title? Who owns the title? Who, is it multiple users of a title? Or is it an LLC that owns the title of that property? So it's just not as simple of identifying a derelict property and tearing it down. However, there is a process that we can work through and it's long, it could be long leading when we don't know who owns the title of the property and in order to get it cleared for demolition. So are we clear on those homework items, Mr. Ralph?
Yes, ma'am. When you say derelict properties, you're speaking specifically of property that we've evaluated and they've reached the demolition requirements, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was just making sure when I get homework, I don't want to bring back the wrong thing to the principal. That's all.
All right, because you don't come back with no dog ate my homework because I'm not falling for it. Awesome, sir. I do appreciate you. Thank you so much. We're gonna move it along. It's 7:30, and I think we have 2 more presentations. And so I did not want to leave with all the issues that we know that we have to address, and we are working through them. I hope you all with this conversation see that we are working through them. But I definitely want to leave on the last presentation on a different high note, and that's the empowerment house that's available right there in the Castle Point community, and how we want to enrich the lives of the community women there, the community members there, and what programs that we are trying to establish available at that site. So at this time, Officer Shanette Hall, would you please join us?
Yes, of course. So good evening once again, and it's definitely exciting to kind of, I guess, like you said, end with a little bit more of, I don't want to say a positive note, but it's a solution, if we will. I've sat here and listened to a number of the presenters, and it sounds like people are doing a lot of work, if you will, for St. Louis County. But what we see is, especially within police departments, that a lot of times we have to focus on being so reactive when we don't put enough time and effort towards being proactive. And so if we can find a shift and figure out how to do that, then we can be better servants, if you will, for the community, for different citizens in the community. And so that kind of brings us to the Empowerment House. And it's funny, and I'll even say this just because we have to act like some people don't know. So the Empowerment House, or the Castle Point House, or the Point House, I've heard a number of different people say different things or call the house different things. It's that little house that sits right in front of the park on Baroness. And it has the big electric sign in front of it. Shantae Jamerson was mentioned quite a few times during this presentation, and she worked very hard for that home. And so a lot of people have probably seen it, but they have no idea what it is the house is supposed to be doing, what it's there for, who's inside of it, or anything. And I would say I was one of those people as well in the beginning. I'm from an organization called the Ethical Society of Police, which is a minority-based organization filled with police officers. But what we really focus on is a lot of community engagement events and initiatives that could be more proactive when we're talking about addressing crime, right? And so we stumbled across this house, and I thought it was a gold mine. I still think it to this day. Luckily, not to go too far back, but luckily at this time, we did have Councilwoman Webb in the area, and she was very responded towards a lot of the questions, concerns, and just wild, crazy thoughts and initiatives we wanted to do with the house. What we've heard a lot of times in the past is build it and they will come, right? Or put some resources somewhere and people will come. Castle Point has been neglected a number of different ways, whether we talk about public safety over time, whether we talk about street lights, whether we talk about derelict properties, the dumping, whatever it is. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of love and they want to pour it right back into this area, to include Councilwoman Webb. And so with this home that we see right now, I walked in and I'm like, man, what can we do to be of more service to the citizens? Initially, we were having all these thoughts, like we just wanted to be extremely resourceful. In the Castle Point area, there's not a lot of community type events, or I'm sorry, not events, but areas. What we see is what we normally see in any other neglected neighborhood when we're talking about liquor stores, corner stores, just whatever, right? Not really places where people can go and they can get actual secure food and nutrition, job employment, access to ways and means of having a better education, none of these things. And it's not necessarily in Castle Point right now. It's a little bit far away. And so we can pour all of those things into this home somehow and fit it into this little box we see called the Empowerment House on Baroness. Then we know we can be more resourceful to not only the children, the teens, but also the adults there. And so you're like, well, what does this look like? Well, we've had a number of conversations over time, and I'll let Councilwoman Webb touch in on it a little bit too. We've had a number of different conversations trying to fit and mold and see what type of structure could we put in this home. And we've had a number of different ideas, but what we initially came to was having this very great, and I think it's going to be a productive conversation with Youth in Need. Youth in Need, if you haven't heard about it, is a nonprofit that was started here in St. Louis, and it's been in the works. I think I looked it up since like the mid-70s, if you will. And it's a structure that already exists, that it's simply put, provides resources to everybody that needs them, whether it be through youth programs, whether it be through counseling, job placement, anything like that. They already have a mechanism that's built in place. And so what we were trying to do, or attempt to see if we can do, instead of trying to come and work so hard and figure this new model out on our own, could we partner with another entity that has already figured it out, that has been extremely successful in making sure that kids, or some of our most vulnerable groups of people, have access, the access that they need to be more productive, if you will, or to live a more prosperous life. And so right now, what those conversations are looking like is, hey, what type of model can we use within Youth in Need? Because they have a few different infrastructures, if you will, within the entire program. One of them being youth programs, one of them being early learning, I think it is, and another one is counseling. What can we take and mold to make sure that it would be most effective, and impactful within Castle Point? What do those residents need the most? And that is the process of where we are right now. But at the same time, there's some things that we need immediately right now to kind of help us go along with some things. And we've had some conversations with council, or not council, but County Executive Sam Page, where we've asked months ago, actually back in the summertime, like, hey, we need some things on this home right now. We need better security in this home. And then we also need Wi-Fi services in this home as well, too. It was promised to us back in the summertime by County Executive Sam Page. Unfortunately, we have yet to see that come about as of right now. The house is technically owned by the St. Louis County Park Rangers entity. And so hopefully we thought that they would be able to help us with those two small tasks as well, but we have yet to also see those things on there. But that does not mean that we're not hopeful for some things to come about. I know that Councilwoman Webb and Shante have been very steadfast and dedicated to making sure that we see something change within this home that'll be better, if you will, for the citizens than what they currently have right now. And so if you have a moment, if there's ever a time where you all, it's not currently open to the public like any day, all day, if you will, but the park rangers have access to the home. It is secure at this point. And we have put some love and some hard sweat, if you will, into the home thus far. The organization that I'm a board member of, the Ethical Society of Police, along with a couple other people, several different police officers, and Councilwoman Webb, Councilwoman Days, Shante, a number of different people, KSDK, they came and we put a lot of time and effort into this home. And that looked like repainting the inside of the home, making sure we got all new appliances in the home as well, ensuring that there is a little bit of furniture right now, but then also some things we want to start feeding in there to make sure when it does become up and running, we can immediately start giving things out to people in the area. And that looks at something that is as small as diapers and wipes. But if we're a mother in this call, or even a father, we understand how that need is sometimes lost and how it can be very impactful. And so that's probably said quite a bit in this short period of time of what it is that we're trying to do. And I don't want to talk too fast, but I know we're getting a little bit closer towards the end, and I want to make sure people have time to ask questions. But this empowerment house in Castle Point is something that is really, 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 really needed. And what we must know is, one, that we always have to make sure that we are proactive when we're talking about, say, serving our residents. And then two, we have to understand what access is. And right now, there's not a lot of access to people that live in Castle Point, whether it be on Castle, Prince, Princess, Baroness, whatever. There's just not a lot of access to resources. And so we can provide a pathway to those access, or to those resources. Then I can bet your bottom dollar that we're going to start seeing some changes in a lot of the things that we've talked about on here, whether it be speeding, whether it be crime, whether it be employment, the safety of kids, whatever it is. I can guarantee you pouring some more love into this home is going to affect all of those different things. So Councilwoman Webb, if you want to add anything else to that as well too. Should I be the person to say that you're on mute, Councilwoman Webb?
I'm having a full-fledged conversation over here. So everyone, thank you, Officer Hart. I think you did a phenomenal job of just giving that overview. I do have homework for you, ma'am. And so if you can give me some data points on that conversation that you had, so we can include it in this package. So for those who was not able to attend, they can get that, they'll look at that side and get some content to make sure what has happened. Yes, I was painting, and that's not my forte. Give me a computer any day, I can help you write some software. But, I did my best, and I was very proud of them pictures I hung on the wall, even though they was a little crooked. And I was very happy about the mental health room that we painted and put some more crooked pictures up there, but then somebody came and straightened them out for me. But in all seriousness, we have, even in that limited, just that little love and nurture, we've had a vaccination event there. We had a community day there where we got people to walk through the halls. We had a petting zoo and kids activities. There was a Juneteenth celebration there. And so I just want people to know that we're not one and done in this. We're here for the long haul. And so to continue to be engaged is a necessity, but to make sure that we have services that the community wants. And so it's always easy to try to tell someone what they need, but we need to listen to the community to say what they need. And I think Shantae has done Officer Shanette has done a phenomenal job of keeping that balance. Like, I'm talking to the professionals and seeing what they can provide for us. I am observing, not just talking to people, but I am observing what is a gap of services and some disparities in the community as well. So those community members that are on the call and that can hear us, or even that are going to listen to this videotape, it's taping later, know that we're all constructively here. Look, it's almost 8 o'clock at night. We're all here. We're not going through the motions. We're not giving you lip service. I don't know what happened in the past. I can only be accountable for Shalonda right now. And so I just want you all to know these things are in the work. And as I talk with everybody as we walk through the presentations, it was just that. So you know how we're moving about, and nobody's moving in a silo, or nobody's moving in stealth. We are transparent and we're letting people know what's going on. And we just want the community to make sure that this is what they want and that they come along and be a part of this partnership as well. With that being shared, there is 19 minutes to the top of the hour. I do appreciate everybody on the call. If you would grace me 20 more minutes, I think this meeting was scheduled for an hour and a half. I want to spend the last 20 minutes hearing from the community members. And there was one gentleman whose hand went up, and it's been up, Mr. Price. I think you have conversation for us, sir. Can you hear me?
How's everybody doing this evening?
Good evening.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, bear with me. This is my first time doing the Zoom meeting. My name is Anthony Price. Just let everybody know, I'm a part of the community in Castle Point. I've been living out there actually since 1977. Mm-hmm. My mother actually still lives on Prince, so she's been out there for 45 years, so I've been part of the community, and, I've been hearing a lot of good ideas. I'm glad to be a part of this. I never knew this panel even existed for the neighborhood. Because like I said, I'm out there a lot, especially in the summertime, people gather around and talk. We try to have good, things in the park, but everybody thinks the community has been neglected. And my boots are still on the ground out there. I'm a general contractor. We're trying to do some things to better the community, but we just didn't know where to start. So I'm glad I met Ms. Shantae Young, coincidentally out, but it's a lot of things. I heard I have a lot of questions, and I don't want to, I didn't write them all down, but for us, the crime in the area, it's a lot of, for us, my generation, we kind of set the forefront of, we had things to do, like going to the park, things like that. We used to walk the Redmond swimming pool, just to go swimming. I'm glad they built a little basketball court out there, but we need more than that for the kids, something to stimulate their minds. The speeding has always been a problem. So, and I like the ideas of the speeding situation, but speed bumps will work in some of the community, some of the streets, and it won't work in others. The main streets that I was concerned about is the streets that has the Empowerment House on Baroness and the school, which is on Prince. A lot of people speed on those streets. Speed bumps will help. You won't help in every street because they come off of Chambers and speed a lot. So. Like I said, I've been out there all my life. I can share some of my experiences, and I kind of, know what can help, and that's what I want to share. I have a lot of questions. I was kind of trying to keep up with everybody, and for us, the lighting issue, when we moved out of Castle Point, there were no street lights at all. And when the street lights when they started putting them up in the 80s, that was a good thing, So my question is, what happened in the early 80s to put up streetlights without the easement situation that we have today that can't be implemented today, So that's what I was, that was kind of going through my mind, when the street lights went up in the 80s, they just went up. It wasn't a problem with easements or contacting neighbors. So I just wanted to know, what's the problem today that there wasn't the same issue, when they went up back in the day.
Lawsuits in a quick, simple word, lawsuits.
Okay.
Like you said, back then, people used to just do whatever somebody requested. If somebody requested a light,
Yeah.
put the light up, put the lighting pole up. Then all of a sudden, somebody comes in, buys the property.
Yeah.
Then, you got to come out and and remove the light or else get sued. So there's just things have changed, brother. I mean, I'm about your same age, so I do understand. But it's a lot more red tape that we have to go through now in order to get the situation resolved.
Well, and I'm glad that I'm here because you got people like my mom that lives out there. She still has a flip phone, so she wouldn't even have access to the information unless I tell her.
I understand. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, we still got a lot of older residents out there that want to see change, but they don't know where to go.
Yes, sir. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here.
So I'm gonna do my part because I don't mind going door to door. Because I was born and raised there. My mom lives there. My nieces and nephew lives there. My business partner, his nieces and nephew lives there. We still, still have a lot of residents that live on that same block.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's a lot of rental property out there. We know the problems, but we're trying to do our part, with the reputation that we have out there to make a positive change. Because a lot of people still look up to us out there, and that's why I say I had to come to this meeting. I cleared my schedule, and I'm glad to hear everything that's going on.
Hey, that's great.
I appreciate
all.
I'm
glad to see you. But like I said, one of the biggest things I guess would be to talk offline with the stakeholders and leaders that are here. But I think if we can get the right-of-way situation kind of worked out, then as far as lighting, we can definitely make an impact with the lighting.
Okay.
But yes, sir.
Okay, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, man. I'm so excited about this. As far as the Empowerment House with Ms. Shantae Hall, are you still on the line?
Shanette, Officer Shanette.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, Officer Shanette Hall. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
As far as the Empowerment House, that's a good idea, but nobody even. Nobody knows what it's for. And I knew the previous owners that moved from the house, but when it got taken over by the county, nobody really knows what it's for. They think it's for parks and recreation, so nobody really knows, that it's actually a resource center. And that's a good move that you guys made, for us attaining that property, because, I think that property needs to be set up like a clubhouse, like in the apartments where people can come and have get-togethers, or I know it's not a swimming pool there, but set up like a clubhouse in an apartment complex to be more inviting for people to come in and see what's going on. When they ride past, all they see is the greenhouses out there with the boxes, and they see the park, so they never really put those together. That's somewhere you can walk into for resources, whether you need a job. Help, want to know, what can you do to help in the community? So we need to find a way to make that more inviting for people who actually live there so they can spread the word.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the plan. And I don't want you to take this as me sounding pessimistic at all, because there's a lot of room for hope. But a lot of those things, the neglect that has been done on the house and in the area of Castle Point, it's been all by design. And so what we have to do is to ensure that we are changing what has been happening in the past, is that we have to make sure that we're holding people accountable. And so in Castle Point, that park is absolutely gorgeous. And the park itself, the grounds are maintained very well. I mean, we have the land in the back, everything from a nice little podium. When we had our community day, we had a band back there playing. We had the area for the petting zoo. You have the basketball courts, tennis courts. One of the park rangers came and was telling me about the area, the ecological area that's in the very rear. And he was like, hey, there's some flowers here that's only in Castle Point, it's nowhere else. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. He's like, well, can I teach the kids about flowers? And of course, absolutely. Yeah. But even within the house, what we need, there are some things that we definitely need right now. And what we hear a lot of times when we ask for changes, we hear people tell us, well, things take time. And this is very much so true. But however, some things don't take a lot of time. When we have been asking for such things, such as Wi-Fi, those are things that are very easy and things that could have been given to us, whether it be by way of the county executive or the park rangers months ago. And so we have to make sure that it's not only just us, but also the citizens that are asking for this, because you all will have the ability to sign up and reserve, to be able to go into the home, possibly to use it, whether it be for, like you would any other community center. If you're reserving a space for baby showers, for, I don't know, whatever it is that you decide to do, you need to be able to have some things immediately in the home. And so in doing such, we have to make sure that when people make these promises, these empty promises for the areas that are sometimes forgotten about, and by no stretch is this with Councilwoman Webb, because we've been in this together now for going on a year, maybe. We've been doing this for a while and pouring our money from our organization in there when we have huge revenue systems from St. Louis County government as a whole. So we have to be able to begin to hold people accountable, the government structures accountable, starting with the county executive or whomever, saying, hey, this is what we need, and don't forget about North County. That should almost be the hashtag, don't forget about North County.
Right. All right, thank you for clearing that up there.
Yes, sir.
I just got one question for Mr. Ralph Walker. Are you still on the line, Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir.
Now, as far as the legal dumping, man, I applaud you guys for what you've been doing, cleaning up the derelict properties and all that. But by me being from that area, I'm not speaking for no one else, but I kind of listen to people when they see people cleaning up out there. To them it looks like just somebody on the outside coming in to clean up. So, of course it's going to be more dump car. They think it's going to get cleaned up, but I think one of my solutions, if you guys haven't discussed it already, will to start involving the community that the residents actually live there with the cleanup. And the reason I say that, I'm gonna give an example, and she'll kill me, but my mom, she has one of the nicest houses on the block. And even though it's a lot of derelict property and dumping over there, nobody will put trash or dump in my mom's yard because they know she's going to come out and say something because, that's just how she is, but you start involving, the homeowners or the people with the cleanup, people be like, man, we're not going to dump that because somebody going to say something, this, that. Instead of them seeing the outside entity come in and just leave it, start involving the people that actually live in these houses. So I think that'd be a good solution to some of the illegal dumping, to deter people from wanting to come in that neighborhood and dump on some of these derelict property because they know somebody's going to say something because we're trying to make the neighborhood better.
I agree with you on that, and I do invite anyone that's willing to participate. Whenever we have our larger group cleanups, I try to do my best to. We include. I've got a large email list that I include pretty much everybody that's willing or just wants to be notified of when. You're not obligated to come to any of the cleanups, but we kind of send out a month in advance, like, hey, we're cleaning up in this area. And it's pretty much just understood, you're welcome to attend if you'd like to attend, or it's informational for even if you don't attend. We'll send out an email. This is what we did. We'll show you, what the before pictures was and what the after pictures are, and move on from there. So if I wouldn't know how to put it together, and I guess I could talk with Councilwoman and Shantae about it, and maybe if anybody's interested in it, I'm more than willing to include them in that email out. We do it once a month for the North County area, so I have to share the wealth. So sometimes I'm in Castle Point, sometimes we do more in Castle Point than we do everywhere else, to be honest. But we go pretty much everywhere else. And I'm curious, your mom probably stays in the 10,200 block of Prince, doesn't she?
10436, right by the park.
Okay. I know which hurts. She's talked to me before too. Yeah. I talk a lot. I'm out there talking to pretty much everybody. I know everybody's interested. They see us come out there and they do. When they see us doing our cleanups, everybody's curious and they come out and want to know what's going on and how to call that information in. So, and normally it's the older people that they really don't want to call, but they're interested enough to talk to me, and I'm really approachable. So I share information with them whether they use it or not, but they see me. And like I said in the beginning, everybody's welcome to join us. And we do group cleanups, and, you know, I accept an extra amount of hands helps me out every time. So, and
Okay.
because it's you guys' community, you know, it's even that much better.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Like I say, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm glad I met everybody. I'm gonna do my part. Only problem that we have is getting the word out, and I'm gonna do my part to help, you know, assist with this situation with all the departments, you know. And I sometimes I just walk up and down the street. I don't live out there anymore, but I'm always going out to see my mom, and I'm talking to the neighbors that I grew up with. And like I say, I'm gonna do my part in getting the word out, you know, because nobody even knew there was a council that even cared about Castle Point.
Thank you,
We're gonna
Mr.
get y'all hooked up.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. And like Mr. Ralph said, we can definitely facilitate and get a community day where we focus on cleaning up from those residents that's in the community. And one thing that you said, Mr. Price, that I really want to leverage off of, we are coming into the community. You are from the community. And again, this partnership, so they know that, hey, if Price trusts Webb and Adam and Cunningham and Shanette, if Price trusts them, then hey, they might be worth our time. And then if we can show that consistency, and I know it's been a year and it being a year of us being engaged there, but we have to show long term. I think that trust will be built, we will be rebuilt, and that will facilitate long-term solutions and partnerships for this community. I do want to share this. Next time I need to put flyers out door to door, I'm calling you, Mr. Price, because you can help me put them door hangers out there.
Hey, I have no problem with that.
And I will be wanting to put something out in the third quarter. I'm sorry, when the end of the second quarter, because I will be wanting to do another meeting, and hopefully at that time we can come face to face and give residents that are not going to get online, and give residents that want to come together an opportunity to be engaged. And so we want to meet people where they are. And so whatever we can do to get them engaged, we will. It's the top of the hour, 4 minutes till. I want to make sure that there was no other member of the Castle Point community that had questions or comment, and give them an opportunity to share with us. Are there any other Castle Point or community members that would like to speak up? Questions or comments?
Ma'am, this is Lucretia Wilkes. Hi, Ms. Webb, how are you? I'll be quick. I just had 2 questions. Is it possible, I know the grant money has been allocated, but was there no consideration for the Empowerment House with the grant money that was given a year ago?
Officer Shanette, would you like to handle that, or you would like to?
Yeah, sure. So I can add a little bit to it. So we, as far as actually putting some funding and some sweat into the home, that didn't occur until the summertime of this year. And so with the funding that was put into the house, so that funding came from a couple of different organizations. So that came from the Ethical Society of Police, and that came from KSDK, which is technically TEGNA, but it came from Channel 5, if you will. So that was added in there. But however, along with the efforts for the actual home, the construction of the home, or inside renovation, let's say that, of the home, that was looked at for sure by Shantae Jamison Bird as well, who we've mentioned on this call, but who's not on here. She put a lot of work into some things. And so she was trying to pour some love into the home. However, and I can say this because we've had these discussions, she was running into barriers with like previous council members that was up there when she was trying to pour love into the home. And so the ownership of the home and who was in charge of it, there was just a lot of miscommunication that came along. And it was just too much miscommunication for myself or even Councilwoman Webb. So once we went in, we decided to just go ahead and start doing some stuff so we can actually see a return. However, I would imagine that within those allocations, I did not see all of them that was just on the screen. I would venture off into saying that I believe that there's probably, it should be something, oh, I see it on there. There should be something in relation to the home somewhere that's on there. If not, I'm sure it will be able to be added, or I don't want to use the word manipulated because it sounds weird, but I'm pretty sure that it will fall with or up under one of those bullet points to put some stuff into the home.
The digital messaging board was one of them.
Yes.
There were a few things.
And that's so people can see a sign to actually know that that's a resource home.
Correct.
Is that what okay, that's a great idea. Okay, one more question, Councilwoman. There's a grant that's pushing through the economic development, ARPA. Is there any hope that Council Point will be able to apply for that and receive a portion of it. There's a grassroots organization called Closed Mouth Don't Get Fed. This one right here. Yes. Is that something that's how much Castle Point will be connected with that if possible?
So thank you. That is a great lead in, Miss, what your name?
Lucretia will.
Lucretia.
I have a
Miss Wilkes.
daycare on Castle. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh, yes, ma'am. I think that's where Miss Shantae grandbaby used to go. But in
Yes.
either case, yes. So I wanted to bring this up before we drop off, and it's 8 o'clock. If y'all would grace me 3 more minutes, I would greatly appreciate it. For those who are interested. This grant, this is not so much a grant, but this is the ARPA funds that we received, the American Rescue Recovery Plan Act, from coming out of COVID, right? And so this literature here is with Evolve, and a grassroots organization that's about action, about making sure we fight for North County's future. That's my hashtag, right? I'm always telling people we fight for North County's future. So what they're going to do is they are already out. They got commercials out. They also are doing flyers, and I'm going to be asking them to put flyers in Castle Point this weekend, or give me some to put some in Castle Point. So when the actual survey, which is supposed to hit Friday, when the actual survey come out, they know what is ARPA, what are those funds eligible for, and then when the survey comes out, people can answer that. Now, what we're doing in Castle Point and some other residents is, if you don't have access to the internet, we want to provide you with a paper document that you can fill out and we can collect and turn in ourselves, right? Because we want to make sure, like the sign says, the slogan says, a closed mouth don't get fed. And we want to make sure that there is adequate feedback from our communities to ensure that they have input on how they want ARPA's funding used and appropriated. Now, with that being shared, I am also looking into opportunities where I can allocate or appropriate direct funding for certain programs that will impact Castle Point. So long story short, yes, it's not a grant that we need to apply for, but yes, those fundings from ARPA funding can be actually given to, can be and actually a benefit to Castle Point. So please keep a lookout. I was just going to give this as a closing announcement. Please keep a lookout for the survey. It's supposed to go out on this Friday, which is the 25th. Also, we'll be putting flyers out this weekend to say, hey, look out for the survey. And if you can't use the survey or respond to the survey electronically, here's a paper copy so we can collect that input as well. Does that help with you, Ms. Wilkes?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And Shantae Young has her hand up.
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Right before the meeting started, we got some updated information about the survey. That's why I was trying to get your attention real quick. It is ready. They have a couple of things that they're working out. They're putting it online. So it's working online, but it's probably going to go live within the next day or so. They're also going to have paper ones that you can mail in, and they have the ability with Evolve for the street teams to go out. And also, if they wanted to do the surveys live on an iPad, they can. If they want to do them on paper, they can bring it back. So they've set it up to where if you even want to go to your neighbor's house and help them fill out the survey, the more feedback we get from our area, the better. And so if you can go to your neighbor's house, Mr. Price, you go to your mama's house and have her do it.
Yeah, I'm there.
You could do multiple surveys from the same device, because that was a problem. And so you could do multiple surveys for the same device. So it absolutely is ready to go. And it's probably going to go live tomorrow, but the capability and they're going to have some kind of announcement, Councilwoman. So we should have an announcement that it's going to go live more than likely tomorrow.
Yeah, so we've been advertising it on our social media, on our Facebook page. I've been sharing it in all of the forums that I've been a part of thus far. I even made an announcement in council meeting last night to make sure for those who are in our community that we participate. I will also be leveraging off of sororities and fraternities, reaching out to some of the other Greek and social organizations like Links and things of that sort, the Mason groups, so on and so forth, to do a wide, massive spread out of this information so we can collect that information and get it back. So we cannot be that closed mouth that doesn't get fed. So I appreciate your interest in that. And please, 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 everybody, this is a chance to know your neighbor. Knock on the door. I just don't know. They got this survey out there. Have some funds that probably can help our community. It's not just me. It's all of us. It's we to make this impactful difference. And so thank you again, Ms. Wilkes, for bringing that up. It is now 4 minutes after 8 o'clock. I want to be respectful of times. Are there any other go backs? I don't want to be disrespectful for our panel who sacrificed and made sure they were here. Or do you all have any go backs? Okay. And from the community members, thank you so much for those who have joined us today. Just share with your neighbor that this will be online. Shantae is bringing up and circling around the WebForce teams. And so what is WebForce teams? Real quick. They are community focused teams that allow you to get engaged, whether that was with beautification, economic development, youth. I'm particularly focusing on Black males, the ages of 18 to 26. That is my focused group, because I feel like they are that group that's in between. All the kids get help, adults go on with their life, but that group right there, there's so much potential and hope there. So we'll be focusing a lot of them. So go to that link, look at those different WebForce teams, and please sign up. Sign up for one, because I need your dedicated, undivided attention to that one so it can be impactful. And then lastly, on the last slide there, Shantae was circling also, we have a newsletter. That's the link to get to our newsletter. And then you can always find me on Facebook. And our office also has a YouTube page where we record all of our meetings, so you can go back there. I'm not doing live YouTube videos. That's not my stick, but the recorded videos are there, and Shantae makes sure they're updated and available. Everyone who had homework, I need that homework by close of business on Friday. That's 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, so that information can be added to this slide deck and it can be provided to our community. If there are no other go back, Shantae, did you have anything else?
I did, as a matter of fact. Let's go back to the YouTube channel, because if you can like and subscribe and share, that would be awesome, because there are times when we want to have something like this, a live event, that she should be going live on YouTube, but she can't because she don't have enough subscribers. So I'm gonna need y'all to subscribe to the channel, because sometimes people want that live feed, that simultaneous live feed. So, share it. Everything on there is everything that you ever want to know. If we had a meeting, it's on there. So yes, thank you.
She just said I'm not popular, y'all. That's what she getting.
No, it's not that. People go
and
and look at it. You got the views. You just don't have the subscribers. You don't have enough subscribers in order to make that happen. And also, too, with the newsletter, you do have to subscribe to the newsletter. As it updates, it gives you, it'll say, hey, you got it. There's an updated newsletter. And if you have an organization or anything that you want to shout out, just send me an email and we can try to include it, or an event that it's happening, then we'll try to include it. That's it.
Officer Shanette says she subscribed. Thank you, Officer Shanette.
Thank you, Shanette. I appreciate you. That's it.
Shoot me the email. I'll subscribe also.
You'll get it.
Thank you.
You on mute, Councilwoman? You just talking?
Oh, I was having a full flash. I was wrapping us up. We 10 minutes after. I'm trying to be on time. You know me in time. Anyway, I'm trying to get better, everybody. But I need to say this. Thank you, Mr. Washington. Thank you, Officer Shanette Hall. Thank you, Mr. Ralph Walker. Thank you, Captain Cunningham. Thank you, Mr. Anthony Price. Thank you, Ms. Wilkes. Thank you, Mr. Adam Spector. This is what it takes. It may not be fun. It may not be popular. It may not even be live. But to be engaged and to know what's going on, we have to show up. And I'm trying to meet you all, meet everybody where they are. So thank you for those who sacrificed time tonight to join us. And I look forward to working to everybody. Don't forget your homework, and I'll talk to you all soon. Good night, everybody.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you too.